Ford employees that are in here. I'm a Ford employee, and I know project management way better. Plus, at that point in time, I had created all of the project management training and delivered it for the vehicle development area. They said, okay, so a couple semesters I taught that. And then that's when they promoted me into the lead for the interior of the Ford 500. Brand new, completely from the ground up vehicle. Kind of, was supposed to be off of the Volvo S80, that's why I ended up in Sweden for a bit of time. It was a $100 million project that I did deliver on time, on budget, and to scope. What was interesting about that was the very first appropriations that I had to approve. Supplier came and said, we're ready to tool up the cross-cover beam for the instrument panel. We need authorization to go spend $12 million. I said, okay. And I was the one that had to approve that. So I went to the chief engineer, said they're ready to go. He said, you sign it. It better be right. Good news is it was, and so launched the Ford 500, which ended up being rebadged the Taurus. They liked what I did so much, they sent me down to Atlanta to be the engineering manager at Atlanta Assembly Plant. So I now was in charge of the crown jewels of Ford Motor Company, the Taurus and Sable. I had the responsibility to ensure that all 2,000 of those that went out of the plant every day were going to satisfy the customer and met all of our engineering specs. Because I'm doing the short version of this, I won't get into why, but I did leave there. Before leaving there though, I did get my certification in Lean. That says the Ford production system. If you're familiar with Toyota, they have something called TPS, the Toyota production system that they're very proud of. We copied it and called it the Ford production system. I ended up getting certified in that, and I also became a certified Six Sigma black belt. So I now had all of these great tools, which was how I was lured to Portland, Oregon, for a company that did aftermarket golf cart parts. There, after about 6 months, it got bought by a company called Nivell. The interesting twist of this whole story is that Nivell was headquartered in this city you may have heard of called Jacksonville, Florida. But that was back in 2006, and that's not how I got here. From there, I ended up with Hyster-Yale Corporation, largest manufacturer of forklifts in the United States. They needed somebody to come in and help them with their product development processes, their systems, and their operations, as well as help them understand how to do project management better, because they were horrible at it also. After 2 years, they sent me to Greenville, North Carolina, where they gave me a responsibility for all of the warehouse products. That was about a $200 million business that I was running. I had about 80 engineers, and I was really enjoying it until a company in Tulsa, Oklahoma said, would you like to come out here, be the vice president of engineering? And by the way, the reason this should tempt you to do this is because our current president is going to retire in 2 years and we need somebody to replace him. I said, cool, I'll go ahead and do that. TWG, Tulsa Winds Group, was a Dover corporation, so I was now a VP of engineering for a Fortune 500 company. The strange twist here is that that was my plan, and it seemed to be working real well because I wanted to run my own company. At this point in time, God said, I didn't give you this incredible 28-year career to run your own company. I gave it to you so that you could go help other Christian business owners run their company. And so in October of 2014, almost 2 years to the date, I ended up in this place called Jacksonville, Florida, with an organization called C12, where I now help build great businesses for a greater purpose. The reason I want to tell you all this again is I know a lot about project management. I've done a lot with project management. I'm pretty passionate about project management. The question you probably have is, so what? What is project management, and why should I really care about project management? So I'll kind of give you the bookie definition. If you go out there and look for what is the definition of project management, it's the application of processes, methods, knowledge, skills, and experience to achieve the project objectives. A project is a unique, transient endeavor undertaken to achieve planned objectives, which could be defined in terms of outputs, outcomes, or benefits. So what? I will tell you the real reason you should care is because it's unlikely you can give me any example where I won't be able to go, that's a project. When you got up this morning and came to school, that was a project. Because the definition of a project that I learned back when I was taking the PMP test back in 1994 is that a project has a distinct beginning, has a distinct end, requires resources in order to achieve an objective. So when you got up this morning, that was a clear beginning. You had a clear end, which was I got to school, which was the goal, and you were the resource and or whatever mode of transportation to get you here. When you were thinking about what college should I go to, that was a project. When you registered for your classes, that was a project. Right now, you're in the middle of a project, which is your semester. At a beginning, has an end, you have a goal, which is a grade. So just about anything you do is a project. Now I'm going to tell you, those that do projects well have a huge advantage over all of their peers out in corporate America, or anywhere else for that matter. Because if you can do projects well, you're going to get stuff done. And we're going to talk about that a little more in a second. So one of the things about project, and you'll hear this frequently, is that it's all about bringing home something in the time that you have, at the cost, and within the scope. You'll also hear something that says, that's great, now pick two, because getting all three of them is incredibly difficult. And if I can give in one of them, then I'll go ahead and do that. I'll give you an example. If you have a class project, we're going to talk more about class projects in a second, because I'll answer this question about what's this whole student syndrome thing that I talked about in the beginning. If you have a class project, it has a very definite, here's when it's due and it's got to be done. You're going to go off and you're going to do it, and you're going to do stuff, but at the end of the day, you probably won't hit the scope one. You'll get it done on time, you'll utilize whatever cost was there, but you won't hit all the scope. And that's the one that usually is one of two. Either they throw a bunch of money at it, or they start de-scoping it and taking things away from it. And that's how people end up accomplishing their projects. I can tell you that the person that can get it done on time, at cost, and at scope is a huge asset to any organization. So, those who can successfully manage projects will succeed, and they will have that advantage over everybody else. One of the reasons for that is this: 70% of projects fail. That's bad news. The good news is, back when I was sitting again for the PMP exam, that question was on the exam. What percentage of projects fail? Back in 1994, it was 90%. So we've at least gotten better. We have better technology, those types of things, but 70% of projects fail. If you in your classwork failed at a 70% rate, are you going to pass the class? No, 30% doesn't cut it. Yet that is what happens out in the real world. So again, those that can solve this problem, they are a huge asset. So let's talk about how can we do that. So why do so many projects fail? The good news for you is we just don't have time to dig into that in a whole lot of detail. As I said, I actually taught a whole master's class on project management. The project management body of knowledge is huge. We could talk for days, weeks, months on that particular piece. But what I do want to hone in on is something called student syndrome, because it is a significant contributor to why projects fail. So what is student syndrome? And all sitting there going, well, I'm a student, I might have a syndrome, but I don't know what student syndrome is. So let's look at it this way. If you had a project, and this probably happened or will happen to you this semester. You have a project that was an assignment from one of your professors. So they give the assignment. How many of you walk out of the classroom and go start working on that particular assignment? Term paper, big project, you go, oh right, let's go get this thing done. No, you don't. Even though it does have a project due date, and you know specifically this is when it's got to be done. But what you end up doing is you kind of wait until down here. And some of you will actually wait until like the night before. Because you know, I can get this thing done in a whole lot less time than I have here, so you wait. That's student syndrome. Problem, and that happens for real out on the projects that are being done. If you look at the road work that is going on here, all of those projects are so far over time, it isn't even funny. Most of the time it's because, again, people underestimated what it really took to do, or they put a bunch of contingency into their estimates, and they know I have all that contingency in the estimates. So I don't need to start on time, I can wait, because I padded things. Problem is this thing called Murphy's Law. If something can go wrong, it will go wrong. And in the project world, it will go wrong right about the time that it's going to be due. So you started here, Murphy hit, again, you'll most likely turn it in on time, but it won't be to the quality that it could have been. So that's student syndrome. The question is going to be, well, how do we ensure that that doesn't happen? By the way, student syndrome is also known as procrastination. I will tell you I'm one of the worst procrastinators in the world, but it was through my project management training that I recognized. When I was learning about project management, there was something called critical path methodology was the key thing that everybody was doing. And in there, they told you focus on those end dates. Focus on end dates and ensure that you're doing and completing things on time. Because if you're on the critical path, anything that's late puts the entire project in jeopardy. You either have to compress downstream or it's going to be late because the critical path is the longest chain through the project. There's no give in it. When I then started, particularly on the 4500, I started talking about start dates. We have to focus on the start dates because if I start on time, I have a much better probability of ending on time. If I start late, I have a much higher probability I'm going to finish late. So that's all well and good, but I then was introduced into something called critical path or critical chain project management or theory of constraints project management. And that's where it started to attack this thing called student syndrome. So how do we avoid student syndrome? And again, this isn't going to be rocket science. I'm going to give you something that's relatively simple in theory. It just takes some discipline in order to actually do it. So here's my project. The assignment's given, there is a due date, and all of that is about a 4-week period. As we just talked about, I know I can get it done in a week. So I'm going to start down at this particular time frame, and I'm going to waste the 3 weeks that I had here. And in that particular case, Murphy hits, and I'm screwed as far as delivering what I really wanted to deliver. One way you can avoid that is, we call it buffering. I can throw a buffer in there. And so in that instance, I'm still going to do my 1 week, but I'm going to move it back 50%. And the theory goes, whatever the length of the project is, take half of it and put it on the end as a buffer. And if I had a lot of time to take you through that, we would talk about then all you do is you manage this buffer, and that's how you end up ensuring that you're on time. In this particular case, what it means is that since I have that, when Murphy hits, I still have some time. It works in project management, it works in life. One of the reasons that we are a society that is as harried as we are is we pack our day so full that there's no margin. So buffer is also margin. So as you are going out there, if you want to be really successful, put margin in your schedule. Make sure that you have those times that if everything doesn't go perfect, you're still going to be able to accomplish it and be okay. So again, this all comes from something called critical chain project management. That was born out of something called theory of constraints. It came about in the late 1990s, and those companies that have adopted it have seen an incredible dramatic improvement in their project management. So there is a book. Ray will tell you I like books, and usually if anybody comes with a question, I'll give them a book. This is probably the best book out there if you want to learn more about this and why it's important. It's called Be Fast or Be Gone. And the reason it's so important is because from a corporate standpoint or an entrepreneur standpoint, if you aren't fast, if you're not faster than your competition, you're going to be gone. And so speed is important, but it's speed with cost and quality. And this is written as a novel. You really can read it in 3 or 4 hours. It's a very, very quick read, and it'll take you into a whole lot more detail of what is this really all about and how can I truly apply it. Because as I said earlier, if you can manage projects well, you will have a huge advantage over your peers.